something unusual happened this week that I was not expecting, which was that a video that I made 5 years ago, interview with this homeless prophet, Vivek, blew up on dig.com. It actually became the #1 most popular video. It's this video where my friend and I, we went to Santa Monica and we were just looking for crazy street performers to film for our cable access show that we were doing at the time. And we ran into this homeless guy and he looked kind of interesting, so we were figuring, what's up with this guy? We walked up to him and we were just kind of like, hey, so what's the art of panhandling and street hustling and whatnot? And it was a comedy show, so we were trying to get some funny little reactions and gave him $1 and got out of there, and that was that. But he wanted to keep going with all of this philosophy stuff, and my friend and I knew what philosophy was, but we weren't really philosophical thinkers, so we treated him, as Vivek would say, a little flippant. And, it's not that I'm ashamed of the video, but if I could speak with myself back then, I would definitely let him know that, what he's doing isn't necessarily right or most advantageous, because I actually did have a lot of curiosities in regards to Vivek back then even, but I was more concerned with ego and trying to get ahead in life and making this, hit comedy show. So that was my focus. But afterwards, we let Vivek go on for half an hour, and we basically watched the video dozens and dozens of times after that. It's a 30-minute long video, and we watched it, at least 100 times, trying to figure out who the man really was, the man behind the words. And we realized that it wasn't the man behind the words that mattered as much as the words themselves. And there's a lot of really strong stuff in there. So I wake up on Saturday morning and the video has 23,000 views. Like, who the fuck is watching this video? It had 200 the week that I uploaded it. The next week it has 22,000 overnight. It's a little strange. And then somebody YouTube messaged me and said, it's on top of Dig, so we check it out. And I'm ashamed of the YouTube people. It's like, here on YouTube you have fucking 500 comments, 95% of which are like, you guys suck, you fucking interviewers ruined the video, you're idiots, you're retarded assholes, you deserve to rot in hell, Vivek is great, and Vivek's a fucking idiot, and he's a retard and asshole. And it's like, if you were paying attention to what the dude was saying, he was saying, don't judge. And then on the dig.com comments on the story, it's a lot different. People were talking about the philosophy of Vivek. They were talking about, where he comes from, his background. People are saying that we should start a PayPal account for Vivek. All these different things. It was never my intention for the video to blow up in such a huge way, but rather to give people a little bit of an insight into who I am and how I came to be who I became and am. So it's a little strange because what my intent was 5 years ago, putting it on Funky Railroad, came true 5 years later, but instead of people really focusing on what Vivek was saying, at least on the YouTube, the Dig had just as many comments, and they were all really good, but on YouTube, where I spend more of my free time, it's like just all criticism, all negative hatred, all insecurity. Vivek was speaking about truth, and tonight I watched Jay-Z being interviewed on Barbara Walters, and Jay-Z said that the key to success in his life was truth, and Fela Kuti he spoke about how he used one weapon to win all of his wars, and it was truth. And I definitely believe truth is a really strong tool, and people choose to take the easy way out by lying about who they are and lying about what they do and lying about their lives because they're afraid and they think that people are going to criticize them and judge them for who they are. But, you know, people shouldn't be concerned with what people think about them. That's all external and kind of arbitrary, really. I mean, how are you going to let somebody else affect you in a negative manner when you're a positive person, you know you're a positive person, you're comfortable with who you are? The only way that that's possible is if you really don't have that self-confidence. And so that needs to be worked on, because that person that's criticizing you is actually doing you a favor by illustrating that. And, you know, when I said Vivek, when Vivek and Jay-Z and Fela Kuti all come together, these three great minds, and they're talking about how truth is the most important means to their success. Vivek, a homo street prophet, Jay-Z, you know, kind of the epitome of mainstream hip-hop culture, the glam, the glitz, the glory, and then Fela Kuti in Africa, who's kind of like a spokesperson for his people, just really reflecting the negative repercussions of government in a country. You have these three minds coming together and all agreeing on one thing. And it is important not to get caught up in lies and trickery, because what we do is, and I've been lying to myself a lot recently, so I've been thinking about truth and how you really get caught up in these different webs. It's like you tell one lie, so there's this filter that you have to remember. First of all, the truth comes naturally and we experience it, so it's right here in the frontal lobe, so we can bring it out. We can bring it out right away and just get it out there. If we're having trouble with somebody, I had problems with a friend recently, but he's a really good friend of mine, so we were able to hash it out easier than if we were to, continue covering it up with like, God, I hate you. Oh no, I kind of like, God, I hate you. It's just like, get it out there in the open. I have a problem with you because of this reason. Oh, well, I'm acting this and I'm causing these reasons for this reason. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that. And a lot of times, why people dislike each other is a simple misunderstanding. So truth is definitely on the opposite spectrum of fear. And I feel like if people are more truthful with their true nature, then there's not that much to fear. We fear all the time. I really think that we as a society we've all evolved too quickly. We have wireless technology. I don't have it on me, but I'm able to fit an entire library into my pocket. All that's been written can fit onto a memory card that's, less than, a centimeter thick, and it, can fit into my shirt pocket. It's weird, and, these videos aren't meant to be illustrating me or glorifying my image or putting me out there. I'm just wanting to talk about it a little bit, so thanks for... there's this bullshit saying that fear is the only thing that there is to fear. There's plenty of things to fear. There's a real reason why fear is important, and it's played a very crucial and important role in the history of our species. But, we've conditioned the land to work for us. We've taken the threats, the predators away, and now, we have all of this extra surplus fear that we don't know what to do with, and it leads to confusion, which leads to more fear, and it's just like this never-ending cycle. The way to break that cycle and to get out of it is really just to acknowledge that, in the present and in the now, we have nothing to worry about. Death is temporary. Life is temporary. Death is temporary. It's... We put the emphasis on the wrong things, and if you're afraid, if you're genuinely afraid, that's fine. I'm not criticizing you. I'm not saying you're wrong to be afraid. I'm just saying that, you're not gonna help yourself grow strong by maintaining yourself in that state, because you're just gonna allow people to manipulate you. People are gonna lead you down the wrong paths, and you're gonna end up in an even worse place. So your fear is actually counterproductive. Fear initially was an instinct to help us survive, but it no longer helps us survive. Societal pressures help us evolve. Pressure, competition help us evolve, but what are we really evolving to? I mean, I'm able to make this video blog, so is it hypocritical? Perhaps. But, I would easily, so quickly, give up my privilege to be able to make a video blog and share it with you if it meant that, 80% of this country wasn't paved over, that we were able to breathe clean air and see all the stars in the sky at night. But then again, I wouldn't even be here if it weren't for the evolution of our society as it is. And I definitely wouldn't be the same person. So I'm constantly, walking this tightrope of, my ideals with the real nature of the way that the world is. And I think it's always important to keep a balance, but to maintain yourself here on this tightrope, and not to fall too far either way. I mean, if you dip too far into reality, you're going to get depressed and go on a downward spiral towards the bottom, because there's so many things to be upset about. But if you take off too much into your ideal, what's going to happen is that you're going to get too excited. You're going to have all of these expectations. And then what's going to happen is, when you realize that your expectations and your ideals don't match up with reality, you're just going to fall and hit rock bottom. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to keep ourselves going and to come up with reasons why we should still be animals in the wild. I saw Apocalypto. I saw Mel Gibson's new movie. It was really good for an adventure movie. I was expecting to get a little bit more of a history lesson of who those people were and all of that kind of stuff. But as an adventure movie, it was a really good movie. And those people and animals in the wild, they don't really think about, what the meaning of life is, or any real objective. Or they may, but they spend more of their time just fleeing, deciding whether it's right to fight or flee in the moment. And civilization makes it so that we don't have to decide whether or not to fight or flee as often. It gives us all this extra time. And I'm not saying that the extra time is detrimental to our mental health. What I am trying to get across is that, we have all of this left over from our previous generations, our genealogy, our ancestry, all of this, surplus fear, and, it's like we want a world without conflict, but we would never be satisfied with a world without conflict. So, I don't know where that leaves us. That leaves me fucking nowhere. That leaves me right back where I started, which is just, trying to figure it all out. And it's impossible because it all is way too much for one person to ever encompass. So, what the fuck? It's like, why, I don't blame a person for committing suicide, because that's really the only door that we have left, that we haven't opened. We can fly, we can go to the bottom of the ocean, we can fly into space. It's like, there are just scientists and people out there that just like pray. They're just like, oh God, can there be another species out there so that, there's something more for this race to do than continue to kill itself. I was watching the DVD The Secret, and they were talking about how we don't have any obligation to save the world or change the world or make the world a better place. Our only job is to continue like going with the flow of life, and I don't know. I think that there's definitely a potential for a better life than this one, and making our way out there is all that we can do. So, in that sense, God created us. I feel we have a responsibility with our lives not to have our lives go to waste and to be creative. That's all I've got to say about that. Death is an interesting thing. That's what keeps most people afraid, is the unknown. This life is filled with so many sensory indulgences, like great flavors and, great sex and great movies and great, adventures and great scenes and great images and all of these great things in life. And then, the way that all of that great experience ends is with us being uncertain about where we're going to end up, and we have all of these people. It's the fucking irony of it is we have all these people dying to prove that they think that they know better about where they're going to go when they die. It's like they're wearing their heart on their sleeve, obviously, and they're saying, like, I know where I'm going to go, where I die. I'm so willing to prove it that I'll die to prove it. But you have all these people that are contradicting each other, doing the exact same thing. And then you have innocent people that could really give a shit less about where they go when they die. And they're just trying to experience life for what it is. And they're being killed by all these people that, are egomaniacal about their beliefs. So I don't know. I'm sorry this is all deep. That sometimes this stuff has to get discussed. So feel free to post a comment or email me about what you think about all this kind of stuff, because I'm interested in hearing your feedback. I think that I was reading in Adbusters magazine about how these social networks, YouTube or wherever this video gets posted, MySpace, cell phones, iPods, all of these social technological jumps are changing the scope of the social structure of society and of our culture. It's true, but it's like we're interested in taking glamorous photos of ourselves and making people accept us. I mean, I admit that a part of the reason why I'm making this video is to be accepted by you, but I'm also genuinely interested in teaching, and even more so, genuinely interested in learning. There's nothing that excites me more than learning something fucking new. That's why I love Wikipedia. Everybody go to Wikipedia and just click for hours. Who cares that people say that you'll go blind if you sit too close to the television? What else do we have to do but learn? And people go about learning in different ways. People go about learning by going out there into the streets and interacting with each other, and information is passed a trillion different ways. But Wikipedia is great. Learning is great. So if you have something you can teach me, that's great. And if you think I'm pretentious, feel free to tell me, because that's your opinion, and if you want to share that with me, that's great. There's a lot of insecure people out there, though, and I could tell you that you're never gonna get ahead by putting other people down. You're only gonna be bringing everybody down, including yourself, because then there's no inspiration. It's like there's people like Gandhi, Lenin, Christ, Buddha. I'll put Emerson on that list. There's so many great people that have lived, that have Plato, Socrates. They've all contributed to society in a positive way. The Wright brothers, and Al Gore. You know, people just want to criticize and put down all these people like, fuck them. You know, what did that guy ever do? Look at him. Look at him trying to do what he's trying to do. You know, fuck you. It's like, what are you doing that's all that great? You're sitting back and you're going, It's like, fuck you, dude. It's like, you know, you're not adding anything. You're not contributing anything. You know, be the change you wish to see in the world. I'm going to end this video on that note. All right. And we'll love each other.